Get out of here. Ina alhamdulillah, wassalat, wassalamallah, wa rasulullah. Welcome to our series entitled The Lawful and the Unlawful in Islam. And we're discussing the lawful and the unlawful in regards to marriage and family relations. Marriage and family relations. Yesterday, we spoke about the lawful and the unlawful in regards to things like adoption. And who can tell us, is it lawful? Is it lawful in Islam under any circumstances to adopt a child? How would anyone answer that question here? Is it lawful in Islam under any circumstances for a Muslim to adopt a child? In other words, when does adoption become lawful in Islam? Anyone, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. It is not lawful whatsoever. It is haram to adopt in Islam.
Okay, does everybody agree with her? Would you all say that it's haram under no circumstances to adopt?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. This is correct. This is haram. And can you tell us why is it that adoption is haram under all circumstances, any circumstances? What makes it such a bad thing? Why? I mean, of course, Allah said it's because it's haram. But why did Allah make it haram? Anyone know? Some things he's told us why. Why did he say that adoption is a bad thing and it's haram? Can anyone remember?
Because it's lying. You're lying saying that someone else's child is your child.
Okay, that's the number one thing. Adoption is a lie. You're saying that someone came from you when they didn't. Okay, and what else about it? What else about it?
I know.
Go ahead, baby.
You changed their father's last name, and it's like haram to change the other kid's last name, their father's last name.
Exactly. You're pretending to be someone's father when you're not. You're taking away their identity, and that also is bad. Why else is adoption bad? There's so many other reasons. Why else? Good job, Sabrina. Why else is adoption such a horrific thing in Islam? Not only
Also, the
Go ahead.
child you adopt and your own kids can never be mahram to each other.
Exactly, because they're not mahrams. They're not mahrams to them. You know, they shouldn't be around your children, you know, because this can lead to a lot of things that's unlawful, such as fornication, adultery, and even worse. Okay, they're not blood related. Okay, so there's no blood connection there. They're not mahrams. What else makes it dirty and nasty and haram? Anyone else? One more thing that you guys didn't mention that needs to be mentioned. Can anyone remember what it is? It destroys.
Yeah, if you're a female, well, that also falls into the haram part.
Yeah.
So
We said the mahram part. The mahram part, they're not bloodly related. Number two, it's a lie. It's passing off a person to be your child that's not. You know, also, what else about it? It's a big one. It destroys the blood, the family, tribe ties, and what else?
Inheritance.
Yes, inheritance. That's it. The inheritance. Inheritance is everything for us. When your parents die, when your relatives die, you inherit whatever they have. Here you're pretending that you're posing someone off as a blood relative when that person is not. And that person can end up taking what doesn't belong to him rightfully away from someone who it rightfully belongs to. You know, so for these reasons and many more, adoption is bad, it's dirty, and it's haram. Under no circumstances are we allowed to ever adopt a child, under no circumstances. So, but are there any other options? If you want to care for a child, are there any other options that are lawful or permissible for us to do as Muslims? And if so, what are they?
Yes, you can sponsor a child. You can sponsor a child by taking care of it, but you don't adopt it.
Okay, and what makes a sponsorship and adoption different? What's the difference between the two?
The sponsorship, the child is keeping itself the way it's supposed to be. Whereas adoption, you're taking you're giving the child your name, you're giving that child everything. But to sponsor a child, you're taking care of it.
Okay, so one of the things that's different, sponsorship, the child keeps his identity. He doesn't take on someone else's identity. Okay, that's one thing. What else is different about sponsorship? Anyone? What else is different about sponsorship?
you're not in the same roof.
Okay, when that child reaches puberty, that child doesn't stay under your home. It can't stay with your children because the laws of mahramship are adhered to. That child cannot be alone with you in your home or with your children that are of the opposite gender of it. They're separated. That's the difference too, to keep that blood from being destroyed like that. Okay, any other differences? Okay, also the child that is sponsored does not inherit from you. He's not an inheritor of yours. He's not your son, your daughter, your relative, so he's no inheritor. You're simply providing and maintaining this child out of the mercy of your heart, out of the generosity of your heart for the blessings of Allah, but not because you're trying to make it your kid or pose it off as something or someone that it isn't. Okay, so that's what we discussed about adoption. It's haram, but we can sponsor children. And Islam, in fact, encourages us to sponsor orphans. And by the way, when you do sponsorship, you don't even have to bring them in your home. You can just send a check every month to whatever agency that they are affiliated with, and they can provide for them with that check. Okay, and also yesterday we answered the question, what about in artificial insemination? Is this lawful in Islam?
Yes, as long as you and your husband are married.
Okay, one of the conditions is you have to be married to that husband, and what else?
has to be both your products, not someone else.
Exactly. His sperm and your egg, no one else's. Can I freeze my husband's eggs and then later on when me and him are divorced, use his sperm to make babies with?
No.
No, ma'am, it's considered adultery.
Exactly. We can't do that. That's adultery. You know, so the man and you and he must be married and living together actively as husband and wife at the time that it's done. Then the child is both of y'all's and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so these are some of the things that we discussed yesterday about paternity. Today, we're going to move on to more about marriage. Let me put the PowerPoint up on the screen. We're going to be discussing the question of abortion. We talked about adoption yesterday. Today, we're going to focus in on abortion and the treatment of our parents, Muslim and non-Muslim. So, abortion and equal treatment. Let's look and see what we have here today. After safeguarding the lineage, Islam imposes certain mutual rights which proceed naturally from the parent-child relationship upon both the children and the parents, making certain things haram for them to protect these rights. And the first one is that every child has a right to life. Neither the father nor the mother have the right to kill a child, whether it's a boy or a girl. And you cannot bury it alive either. This was done by the Arabs in the Jahiliyyah days, as Allah says, in the interpretation, the meaning, do not kill your children out of fear of poverty, because we shall provide for them and for you. Truly, the killing of them is a great sin. So this outlaws abortion. Under no circumstances, guys, can we get abortions either. Allah tells us that for those children that are buried alive, they'll be asked what crime did they commit, which they didn't commit any. Okay? And there's a lot of people that have abortions because they're shamed. They don't want their daughters to bring them any shame. Or some people do it because they feel like they can't take care of it financially. Well, you know, I want you to ponder this. We have the hadith when a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked the Prophet, what's the greatest sin anyone can commit? And the Prophet said, to associate partners with Allah. And then the person said, well, what's the next worst sin? And the Prophet said, the next sin that is the worst sin to commit in the sight of Allah is to kill your children out of fear that you won't be able to provide for it. Allah will always make a way. So we don't have abortions and kill our children because we don't think that we can take care of them. That's not the way. That's not what we do in Islam. Okay? And also, guys, just to give you some history, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would take the oath of allegiance from the Muslims, he would have them declare in their oath that they would not kill their children and that they would consider it an absolutely forbidden sin, and also that they would not steal. So the Prophet included that in the allegiance giving to him, that you have to pledge your allegiance that you won't kill your children, because this is something that the Arabs used to do. And as Allah tells us that it's forbidden for us to kill our children, he also set conditions upon raising them. And he said that as parents, the parents must be equal and just with all their children. Even if you favor one child more than the other, you have to be just in your treatment of all of them. Okay? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not do injustice amongst your sons. Treat all your sons the same. Don't favor one over the other. We have a hadith whereas a man requested that his wife give a gift of a garden to a slave of her son. And so she asked this slave to go to the prophet and ask and have him be a witness. This slave went and said, the daughter of so-and-so wants you to be a witness to her giving a slave to her son. And the prophet asked, well, does her son have brothers? The man said, yes. The prophet said, well, did she give a slave to them too? The man said, no. And that's when the prophet said, I cannot be a witness to other than what is just. This is not just. She's going to reward one son with a slave, but she's not giving the other sons anything. This is not equality. And as Muslims, we don't take part in that. Okay? There's another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, do not ask me to be a witness to injustice. Your children have the right of receiving equal treatment as you have the right that they should honor you. So Islam is a check and balance. We parents have to be just and fair in how we handle our children. If you're going to buy something for one, you better have something in your hand for the others. Otherwise, you're going to have a sticky situation that's going to backfire on you. And also, not only does Allah teach us to be just with our kids, but he says, even after death, when you die, don't go over the limits in giving them what Allah has decreed. Now, Allah has decreed in the Quran how much a person should get when a person dies. We can't change that. Whatever Allah has in that surah about how much a woman should get, how much an aunt should get, a cousin, we can never change that. And no parent can deprive his children of their inheritance. For example, you can't deprive the girls or the children of a mother whose mother is your favorite wife. You cannot show favoritism like that. You have to be just and fair with all your kids. So in Islam, the inheritance is divided up by Allah in Surah Baqarah. And everybody has to get exactly what Allah mentions that they get in Surah Baqarah. Anyone that violates that has committed a horrific sin. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, your fathers or your sons, you do not know which of them is closer to you in benefit. This is an obligation ordained by Allah, and Allah is just and aware. Also, Allah says, which is not it is not rightful heirs, a charge from Allah, and Allah is all knowing. Those are the limits of Allah, and whoever obeys Allah and his messenger, Allah will admit them into gardens beneath which rivers flow to live there. And what a supreme achievement. But whoever disobeys Allah and his messenger and transgresses, he will admit into the fire. So our inheritance when we die is supposed to be, our property is supposed to be divided the way Allah said. We can't favor a child over another. We can't write a child out of our will or any of that. Allah also says whoever disobeys Allah's laws of inheritance has deviated from the just way made plain to him. So we can't deviate away from dividing up our property when we die the way Allah has set it up to be divided in Surah Baqarah. So adoption is haram. Abortion is haram. Inheritance must be given the way Allah has sanctioned in the Quran. Also, it is haram for us to favor some children, to show favoritism with our children. We have to be just with them all, even if you do favor this child more than the other. If you buy for this child, you have to buy something for the other too. It doesn't have to be the same thing. But if this child needs a new pair of shoes, you buy him the new pair of shoes. And at the same time, if that child needs a new winter coat, you buy him his winter coat. The same way you have to be just with your wives. If this wife needs a new car, you get her a new car. If that wife needs a new washing machine, you get her the new washing machine. We have to be just with our children, the same as we have to be just with our wives. And again, Islam is a check and balance, a check and balance. Just as men have to be just with their wives and children, we all have to be just with our parents. We have to show respect for our parents. And let's look and see what Allah says about this. Allah says, in the interpretation of the meaning, and we have enjoined upon man kindness to his parents. His mother carries him in pain, and she gives birth to him in pain. And the period of carrying him and weaning him is 30 months. So here Allah is letting it be known that we have to show respect for our parents, especially your mother, because she's the one that carried you in her stomach. She's the one that went through all the pain, the agony. So you can never be disrespectful to your mother. We have a hadith, and I've told you this hadith many times. A lot of men get married and their wives and their mothers don't get along. The mother wants you to continue to spend time with her. And then your wife is a new wife. She wants you to be with her. So a lot of men are confused. Who's most deserving of my time? My wife wants me to take her to the movies tonight, but my mother wants me to come over and help her fix her garden. So who's most deserving? Well, this happened during the time of the Prophet too. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A man came to him and said, "O Prophet of Allah, who is most deserving of my time? My wife or my mother?" And the Prophet said, "Your mother, your mother, your mother, and then your father." So what the Prophet is saying here in this hadith is the person most deserving of your time is your mom. Not your wife, your mom. And then after her, your father. So if your mother needs you to come help her do the garden and your wife wants you to take her shopping, you have to tell the wife, "I can't take you. I need to go help my mom." But on the other hand, in another hadith, the Prophet said, the person that's most deserving of your money is your wife. You have to take care of your wife and your children first, and what's left over, you give to your mother or your father. See how everything is a check and balance. So if your mother wants you to come help her clean up the garden, your wife wants you to take her shopping, you tell your wife, "Honey, I can't take you shopping. My mom needs me. But here's $100. Go buy what you need." Your wife is more deserving of your money. Your mother is deserving of your time. Do you brothers get it? Don't get it twisted, because some mothers out there think that you got to give them your paycheck because I'm your mama, and your wife don't need you to buy her nothing. No, if your wife wants a new car, you give her the car. She's more entitled to your money. Do you brothers understand that? The money, the paycheck goes to your wife and children. Your time, your companionship goes to your mother. Everything is a check and balance in Islam. Allah didn't give too much power or too many rights to one. Everything balances out. Okay? We have another hadith, whereas the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, shall I not tell you about the three major sins? He said the first major sin is to associate partners with Allah. The second major sin is to show disobedience to your parents. And the third major sin is to lie and give false testimony. So here you can see we have to obey our parents too, but pay attention. There's a catch. This does not apply to any woman who has been married. You guys hear it? Once a girl gets married, her obedience is not to her mother anymore, nor is it to her father anymore, nor is it to her uncles, her brothers, or nobody else, but her husband. So what does that mean? That means right now, if my mother were to call me right now and say, I want you to come over here, I tell her, no, I ain't coming nowhere. I'm your mother. I don't care. My husband told me that I can't leave the house. I have to obey my husband, not you. Well, I'm your mother. Yes, you are. And may Allah bless you. But he's my husband. He's my imam. He's my imam, my leader, not you. Once I got married, that obedience ring was severed. And it was transferred from you and dad to him. Y'all understand that? That's why if your husband tells you he don't want your mama or your daddy in your house, in his house, you have to listen to your husband. You tell mom and dad if they come to the door like Habiba told Abu Sufyan, I can't let you in here. I'm your father. I'm your mother. So what? My husband said you are not welcome in his house, and this is his house, so adios. You'll understand that? So the hadith and the law about obedience to the parents, for you brothers, you men, this is all throughout your life. But for the women, our obedience to our parents is shifted. It shifts from the parents to our husband when we get married, but we remain respectable to our parents. We do just like Habiba did. We respectably look at your mother and say, you're not welcome in here, and close the door. You don't cuss her out. You don't yell and scream at her. You just say, you're not welcome here. Orders of my husband. And you close the door. And that's the reality. It's just to me. It makes a lot of good sense to me. A lot of you may struggle with that because you come from American background and you were raised from the slave days that everything's about the mom because the dad was taken away. Chicken George was hauled off the plantation. Well, that's life. That's your life. But you should be over that life. Your culture is now Islam. Once you convert to Islam, your culture is Islam. In our culture, there's no obedience to the parents. If you are a female and you get married, it goes to the husband, but you always maintain respect for your parents. Everybody understand that? This is the law. So it is written, so it shall be done. That's it. Okay. Also, there's another hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said 3 groups of people will never enter paradise. One group are those people who were disobedient to their parents. Also a pimp. If you were a pimp, you went around pimping women, you will never enter paradise. Also, the women who imitate men. We're living in the feminist LGBTQ movement days. We have a lot of feminist women out there who imitate men. They think they can lead men in prayer, for example. These are women that think that they can lead a man in prayer, that they can be imams, that they can be chaplains and go and do ruqya over you and stuff. Allah curses these type of women, and these women will never be allowed to enter paradise. Also, in another hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when we commit sins, whenever we disobey him, Allah will hold off punishing you, except when you disobey and disrespect your parents. If you disrespect your parents and disobey them, then Allah will punish you in this world. So think about that. Some of you have no nothing good happening to you. Ask yourself, what's your relationship like with your parents? Is your relationship with your mother and father good or bad? Because if it's bad, then that's why all type of bad dramas happen to you. Allah will punish you quickly for disrespecting your parents. I remember years ago, a brother I knew, he got mad one day and beat his mother up. He was 21 years old, got mad because his mother wouldn't let him use her car. So he beat her. He actually hit his mother, smacked her in the face, knocked her down, beat her up like he would beat a dog on the street. And then he called her the B word and walked out and went to catch the bus to go where he was going. As he was standing there waiting at the bus stop, 2 teenage kids came up out of nowhere and shot him in his back, and he was paralyzed for the rest of his life. This was just minutes after beating his mother so horrifically because she didn't let him use her car. That's how quick Allah is in punishing people who disrespect their mothers and their fathers. So think about that. A lot of you children, think about that when you talk back and treat your parents badly. Also, these rules apply to non-Muslim parents too. Okay, a lot of people say, well, how should my relationship be with my family who are not Muslim? The same way, as long as your mother and your father are not enemies to Islam, enemies to Allah. What does that mean? As long as your mother and father are not abusing you because you are Muslim, calling you out your name, trying to make you not practice your religion. As long as your non-Muslim parents are not doing that, you treat them with the same respect and dignity. Okay? Allah says that in the Quran, in the interpretation, the meaning, be grateful to me and your parents. And to me is the final goal. But if they strive to try to force you or convince you to not to associate partners with me, then don't obey them. But instead keep company with them in a kind way, the way Habiba did with Abu Sufyan. Her father, she didn't call him out his name. She was very respectable. She just told him that he couldn't come in the Prophet's house. Okay? And also, guys, don't go around cursing other people's parents either. The Prophet said among the major sins is a man who curses his own parents. And somebody asked, how can you curse your own parents? The Prophet said, when you insult somebody else's mother or you insult somebody else's father, in turn, they will insult yours. So that's how you end up cursing your own parents. So we have to be careful of this. So again, guys, abortion is haram. Every child has the right to live. You can't take that life from them. And when you have your children, you have to be just and fair with them. You cannot favor one child over another. And on the other hand, the children have to be respectable to the parents. They have to obey their parents. and respect their parents. When a boy grows up, his parents are still most deserving of his companionship, but his wife and children are more deserving of his money. And when a girl grows up, her parents do not have to be obeyed. They cannot be obeyed over her husband, but she still must show respect to them. And even if your parents are not Muslims, we have to treat them with kindness and respect. If they're enemies to Islam, we distance ourselves from them, but we're still kind and respectable. So these are the things that we went over today in this series on the lawful and the unlawful. Are there any questions or comments about any of these issues? Any questions or comments? Okay, if there's no questions or comments, we're going to go ahead.
Yes. Now I hear, you say to respect our parents, even though they're not Muslim, but they're disrespectful to you. In many ways, Islam, your character as a Muslim, they make you, your character, they make you feel, that they take your character away from you, or they try to take it away from you, and they try to make you act other than yourself. How do you deal with an individual like that?
Okay, we talked about
yourself?
that. That's better. That's distancing, because that person is toxic towards you and disrespectful. You deal with them from a distance. You call and check on them to see how they doing. If they need anything, you will bring it over to them, but you leave after that. You minimize your time with them. You minimize your, and of course, there's no obedience to any one of them if they're telling you to do something that contradicts Islam. So you just
picking up on them. Is that considered disrespectful? Like they're calling you, and the conversation is just getting toxic. And you just like, okay, and then you hang up the phone. And they call you ignorant or arrogant, whatever.
Some people you have to hang up the phone from because they don't listen until you say bye.
Right.
You're saying bye and they're still screaming and hollering, yelling, and you just hang up the phone. You said goodbye.
Right.
Just hang up.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard.
That's well better. It's hard because it's your family member, but you have to, your limit. Yes. So you deal with them only when you have to. Okay. And when you have to, make it quick and short to the point and keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Okay, if there's no other questions about that, let's move on to our hadith for tonight. And let me put it up on the screen. And of course, this is from the book entitled Beware. And inshallah, everybody has a copy of that book composed by Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atlee. I hope you guys have ordered it from off of his website, atleeonline.com. And we will be looking at the hadith that speaks about cursing time. Cursing time. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu tells us that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, do not curse time, because time, Allah is time. In other words, Allah controls the time. This is one of his attributes. This is not one of Allah's name. We do not call Allah Ad-Dahir. that's not one of his names. Ad-Dahir is not his name. It's an attribute. Okay? He controls the time. Time moves fast, slowly. It's controlled by him. So if you curse the time, you're cursing him. And how does a person curse time? Let me give an example. Oh man, I hate it. The day went too fast. Oh my God, I hate it. Daggone it. The day went too fast. You're cursing Allah. I hate the time. I hate that it went too slow. Oh my God, I want to go home from work. It's going too daggone slow. Allah is in control of the time. So we have to be careful. We have to learn to accept the qadr of Allah. Allah moves the earth. He moves the time within it. He moves us within it. We have to accept how Allah does and how he wills what he wills without cursing it, because then we're cursing him. So don't say, I hate the fact that time went by so quickly. I hate the fact that today is gone, or I hate this about the time, or I hate how slow it's going. Don't do that. Learn patience, because you're cursing Allah. So what do you learn from this hadith? Well, you learn that we should watch what we say out of our mouths all the time. Watch what we say, because some of the things we say can destroy us. Also, Allah is the cause of everything good that happens and everything bad. Everything happens because it was his qadr, his decree. So you have to accept the fact that it's going too slowly for you or too fastly for you. Also, a Muslim should learn to exercise patience no matter what is happening. Patience on the job, patience off the job, patience in your home. And also we learned that we should not curse out the hour or day when something happened. You know, something happened. If only I hadn't have done this, this wouldn't have happened. If only I had went to a different place at a different time. We can't do that. And remember, also we learned that Ad-Dahir is not one of the names of Allah. That's not a name. That's an attribute, but it's not a name. Some Muslims out there give Allah names that he says is not his. Because he controls the time does not make him time. Okay? Because he's the bringer of bad things, that's not a name either. Because Allah can cause bad things to happen, we don't call him the bringer of bad things. So be careful of the names that we give to Allah too. So that's the hadith for tonight. And it's a wonderful night for us to, the wonderful hadith for us to ponder. Okay, so alhamdulillah, we've come to the end of our classes tonight. This is at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to stop right here. I truly enjoyed all the classes today. I had a good time with the kids today for the Sunnah Followers Kids program. I enjoyed the 6 o'clock class and I enjoyed this one. And inshallah, I hope to see everybody tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow we have the continuation of the heroines of Islam. And I'm doing the story of Zainab. Zainab bint Jahsh. That's going to be tomorrow night. Tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget that tomorrow at 9, y'all want to spread the word around. Let everybody know that that's tomorrow. And here's a...
Her marriage itself was orchestrated in the heavens above. Born from an affluent family, she sprouted from greatness. She was known for her generosity, spirituality, kindness, and devotion. Unmatched, which is why it was important that she be married to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Although she was short in stature, the Prophet himself said amongst the mother of the believers she would meet him first who had the longest arms, which spoke volumes in regards to her generosity. Her name was Zainab bint Jahash. Join host Layla Nashiba on another exciting installment in the Heroines of Islam series, every Monday and Wednesday 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, right here on Sunnah Followers.
Yeah, that's tomorrow at 9 p.m. And also tomorrow, don't forget, we have Wala Wal Bara too. That's based on a book by Sheikh Karim Abu Zaid. That will be at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you guys continue to read chapter 10 of the book. Chapter 10 of the book. Okay? So I'm going to close out here for tonight. Inshallah, I'll see everybody tomorrow. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Everybody have a good night, inshallah.